For an update on our status of when Harrington Raceway will open, let's check in with the Executive Director of the Delaware Standardbred Owners Association, Sal DiMario.
Our first race night will be Monday night, June the 15th. We'll be racing 3 days a week until July the 15th. Total of 15 race programs. That's a week beyond what we would normally race. And that's still pending final approval by the Delaware State Fair that extra week. But Harrington didn't think it was going to be too much of a problem. When they go into the paddock, horsemen are going to have to go past the checkpoint where they'll take their temperature. They'll use an external temperature gauge. They'll ask them a few questions to make sure that they're not feeling badly or exhibiting signs of someone who is sick, possibly with the coronavirus. Once they've done that, they will be given some kind of a wristband or something that says they've been checked, and this way they can go back and get their horse and bring them into the paddock and not have to go through that again. Otherwise, there would be a gateway, a funnel of a lot of horses trying to fit in all at the same time, and would cause a great amount of confusion. There will be a limit of one groom and the trainer per horse. No owners, unless the owner is also the trainer and he would be in there with the horse, because it has to be a restriction on the number of people in the paddock. The grooms will be required to stand at the right side of the stall. The stalls are 10 foot wide. This way they can practice proper social distancing. They will have to have masks. They have to provide them themselves. There will be sanitizing stations throughout the paddock area, and there will be plenty of signage and things that direct you which way to go, and everything being done to keep the social distancing intact. The paddock will be limited to 9 races a night. No stall can be used more than once. So what will happen is the first 5 races will go in stalls, race stalls for the first race, the third race, the 5th race, the 7th race, and the 9th race. Races 6, 7, 8, 9 will go in race stalls 2, 4, 6, and 8. So this way there won't be another race across from you when you're in the paddock, to protect everyone with social distancing. Horses will still be able to get their Lasix and use their Lasix stalls. I'm hoping that as some of this loosens up, we'll be able to add some races, because 27 races is probably not going to be enough to get everyone raced regularly, but that's what we have to do, at least in the beginning. And I'm hopeful that as things start to loosen up, people become more and more familiar with how this operates. We can find some things that we can do better. We would be able to open up some more races. Purses are going to be at about $60,000 a night, which is probably about 60% of normal. Everybody, is aware that without having the casino open and no racing all these months, our purse account was stagnant. We only have the same amount of money we had in there when the casinos closed on March 16th. We have to use the purse money that's in there to get us through the entire race meet because we don't know how much the casinos are going to generate going forward. Now, obviously, as they generate revenue and the revenue comes in, we can make adjustments to purses, and I would expect that at some point we can increase purses. This will all rectify itself with time, but those are all decisions that the board has had to make, considering the greatest number of people and what's best for everyone, in the Delaware horse community. It's important that horsemen understand that this is a situation that requires complete vigilance and strict adherence to all these policies. Eventually, I think some of these policies may start to diminish as the use of them become more familiar and better procedures can be put in place. But right now, it's strictly, they have to strictly be enforced. if someone's come to the paddock and not have a mask, they won't be allowed in. If someone comes to the paddock and while in the paddock is not following the guidelines that they must, they'll be barred from the paddock. Because what that can do is jeopardize everyone else from racing. We've had the cooperation of the Governor's Office, the Secretary of Agriculture, and with the Harness Racing Commission and Harrington Raceway, we've been able to work together jointly to get this plan approved, which was required. It took a lot of time, took a lot of work, it took a lot of back and forth trying to get something that we all felt comfortable with, and it's very obvious that a lot of horsemen will look at this and say, well, is this really necessary? Well, I don't disagree that some of it may seem like overkill, but it was absolutely necessary because we had to get the approvals from the state agencies who are not familiar with racing. And they wanted to make sure that we were doing what the CDC, Center for Disease Control, required, what the governor's standing emergency orders required, and what best practices were during the COVID-19 epidemic. So I think it's really a good time for horsemen to start to say, hey, we can look forward, we can open up, we can get back to doing the things we want to do, we're used to doing, and that's racing horses. We may have to put up with a little bit of grief and aggravation to comply with all these rules, but the alternative is not to race. So I don't think anybody will think that this is not the best course. We are able to go back to racing once everybody's in that paddock, doing the things they know how to do best, watching their horses race. They're going to feel 100% better. They're going to get back into a groove and swing of things and feel like things are getting back to normal. And they are. Slowly they will get back to normal. This is the first step. With time, the casinos will start generating the revenues that will go back into purses at a higher rate, and we'll get closer and closer to purse levels we were used to, and eventually we'll get back to where we were before the COVID virus started. So this is a good day. This is a time for horsemen to be enthusiastic, for them to look forward. There's really no room for negativity. So I ask everyone to just, bear with it, work with it, get back, and with time, we'll make the adjustments as things change, and hopefully it'll happen sooner rather than later, and we'll be back to normal quicker, or as quick as possible. I appreciate everyone's cooperation, the board of directors for their hard work, the Racing Commission for their hard work, the racetrack, and the Secretary of Agriculture and the Governor's Office. It has been a rough couple of months for all of us, and I think we've turned the page and we can look forward to getting back to what we consider to be some degree of normalcy.